Howdy, and welcome to our little lecture here on concepts and education surrounding the shoulder complex and injury from the martial arts, the why of our system. So basically, why do we do things the way I do? Why are we going to construct your program the way we're going to construct it? All that kind of stuff, or better yet, why are you going to construct your program the way that you're going to? So, shoulder complex. So when dealing with the shoulder, we're not actually dealing with a single joint or a single muscle or muscle groups. I hear this thing all the time. They're talking about like, oh, you tore your rotator cuff. Well, the rotator cuff is four muscles. Which one did you tear? What did you do to it? So that always kind of bothers me from the, that's one of those paradigms from the medical community that doesn't have a real crossover into reality. And so when we're dealing with an entire complex that needs to be absolutely balanced for optimal function, that's what we get where we're at today. And so the functional components in order, and what I mean is functional order. One has to be functional for the next one to function properly. First is a thoracic spine, and this is the middle vertebra 8 through 20. When you're going down the spine, you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and so when you hit number 8, that one is attached to a rib and is part of the thoracic spine. And then you have the shoulder girdle. And the shoulder girdle is just the scapula, the shoulder blade, and the clavicle, or the collarbone, articulating with the rib cage and the sternum, or the breastbone, right? And then we have the shoulder joint, which is way out here. And that is the bone of the upper arm articulating or meeting with the outside of the shoulder blade. And so the technical definition or name for it is glenohumeral joint. And you'll see that both in our next couple of little slides here. And we'll point out exactly what it is and where it's at and all that kind of stuff, so that you have a good picture in your brains about it. And then we can all understand and know exactly what that is. And then we have the elbow and the rest of the arm, which isn't really a part of the complex, but I do run into a lot of people with dysfunction here, and it affects the shoulder. And so we're going to mention it here. All right. And so we'll go to, when I say in order, it connotates that the posture, structure, and coordinative stabilization patterns, and we'll just call it function, is that one sets the stage for the next one to function properly. So the thoracic spine, well, if you look up here, you go number 1 begets number 2 begets number 3. A lot of times you can actually solve problems in number 3 by solving problems with number 1. And so that's the kind of concepts we're trying to relay here. All right, the coordination of the shoulder complex. So the shoulder complex is built for mobility, but not much stabilization. It's mostly held together with soft tissue. Unlike, think of your hip. Your hip sits really solid right in, like the femur sits right into a nice little socket right there, and it's kind of capsulated, where the shoulder doesn't have a lot of structure to it. It's kind of, it's kind of out there. And so it needs a lot of muscle to coordinate properly to hold it and make sure it doesn't end up out of whack. So so when one element of the shoulder complex is out of whack, the entire system is going to experience some level of that dyskinesis we were talking about. And so when we have dyskinesis, the entire nervous system is going to lock down that joint and the joint complex. And that's when you're going to get all those referral pains and all that kind of stuff that we were talking about in our last little lecture. And then when you apply stress to that, the injury is going to occur further due to the strain piled on top of this issue from the demands of the sport. So if you got somebody who's trying to rip your arm off, or flip you around or whatever, then that's extra strain. and that's no fun on an already strained system. All right, so typical problems that we're going to experience with the shoulder complex are frozen shoulder, rotator cuff tears, pain in the front or the side of the arm and shoulder and down the arm, pain in the rear of the shoulder, or we'll experience like pain of trigger points and knots in the shoulder blade, stuff like that. And then specific to martial arts, when we're applying that extra strain, what are we going to get? Well, if we're not strong enough for the strain that's occurring, we can get shoulder dislocation. We can get more serious rotator cuff tears, torn pec, like my former client Al that we were talking about in a couple of videos ago. We have a biceps tendon tear. That's a very common one. AC joint separation, which is AC joint is right up in here, and so that separates. That's no fun. Or we typically get just simple restrictions felt in the mid back where the shoulder or where the shoulder meets the neck, and we can mitigate those through through all of our balancing techniques and our balancing strategy. I should be more accurate with. And that is it, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in today, and I will see you on our next. Let's see, what are we going to go over next time? Let's go ahead and look at it here. So I will see you on our next one where we're going to talk about the thoracic spine. And we're going to go through the thoracic spine and look at exactly what that is and how it contributes to this entire complex. Thanks a lot.